Welcome to Robert's Rules of Order. I'm Jackie Sargent, SCMP of Jackie Sargent Communications. I also served as the Director of Sponsorship and Professional Development for the IABC Canada West region. In my career, I've attended well over 200 municipal council meetings, and as a result, I'm pretty familiar with Robert's Rules of Order, so I was chosen by the board to give this presentation to you today. So who is Robert and where did his rules come from? Robert is actually Henry Martin Robert, who was a U.S. Army Brigadier General. In 1863, he was asked to lead a church meeting. He felt unprepared for the task of managing a meeting and wanted to ensure he knew what he was supposed to do to try and keep things in order. So Henry decided to do some research on parliamentary procedures to help ensure he could keep this meeting on track. So what did our friend Henry Robert find? Well, he found out there wasn't a universally accepted way to run a meeting. So what does one do in the absence of a standard set of meeting rules? Henry did what any other innovator would do. He created his own set of rules. The result? Robert's Rules of Order, first published in 1876 and widely adopted in Canada and the US. So let's fast forward to today and see how these rules can assist us in having effective IABC meetings. Let's chat about meetings first. There are basically two types of meetings, informal and formal. Informal meetings aren't just casual get-togethers. There can be an agenda and minutes taken, but items are discussed more for information purposes only. Formal decisions are not made. This is a very important distinction to ensure you aren't in breach of your chapter bylaws. Formal meetings are more structured and more likely when you will be following Robert's rules. Not only does this help keep the meeting organized, but following proper structure and protocols can protect you should there ever be any questions or challenges about important decisions made by your board. So let's look at a sample agenda for a formal meeting of the board. We start off with a call to order, as this marks that the meeting has officially started. The time is usually noted in the minutes along with the names of the meeting participants. Next is adoption of the agenda. This is an important step as it tells the participants that these are the topics to be discussed during the meeting. There is an opportunity to amend the agenda, but we'll get to that later. It is good practice to keep minutes as this becomes part of your formal record. Your agenda should include adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting, as this is confirmation from all participants that the information recorded is correct and accurate. The next section would be old business. This is where you would discuss any items that may have been tabled from a previous meeting. Then it's time to discuss some new business. Meeting agenda best practices recommend including the title of the topic to be discussed, identify who is presenting, and then the proposed motion. Then, after all the items have been discussed, it's time for everyone's favorite part, the adjournment. Just like the call to order, this is the conclusion of the formal part of the meeting. So let's practice this with our good friend Henry and his crew. So first we have the call to order and the meeting has officially begun. Attendance is tracked to ensure quorum. Quorum is key as without it the meeting is not an official meeting and no decisions can be made on the items on the agenda. The next step is to agree on the agenda. Best practices suggest providing all participants an opportunity in advance of the meeting to submit items they wish to discuss or matters that require a decision. The items are compiled and the agenda circulated prior to the meeting along with any reports or attachments. However, things may come up last minute, so there is an opportunity to amend the agenda by adding items or even in some cases removing items from the agenda. Note that there isn't anything prohibiting people from raising other topics throughout the meeting, but it's more difficult to maintain order and is generally discouraged, especially for items that require a decision of the board. A way to address walk-on items is to add them as part of a roundtable discussion at the end of the meeting. Next is the adoption of the minutes. Reviewing the minutes of a previous meeting is an often overlooked task by meeting attendees, but it is a very important task, especially if there are any errors regarding decisions made or if a decision wasn't documented at all. Incorrectly documented actions and decisions can have potentially serious legal and reputational repercussions if your board was ever challenged on a decision that wasn't properly documented. So don't look at the approval of minutes as a routine task. It is an important board responsibility to be taken seriously. Now it's time to get down to business. On some agendas, you might see old business first. Old business includes items from previous agendas that were tabled. That means an item was discussed as new business on a previous agenda, but rather than making a decision during that meeting, someone would have made a motion to table the issue for a later meeting. If you're going to table an item, be sure to table it to a specific meeting date, otherwise it could sit in agenda purgatory and never be resolved. This doesn't happen very often, so let's move on to new business. New business is exactly that, new items up for discussion. This can include informational items and updates, as well as business matters that require a decision of the board. Some meeting agendas will include all information items in one section and have a single motion to accept all of those items as information. Other agendas may have agenda items listed separately with their own motion, with information items and decision items interspersed throughout the agenda. Either way is fine, but for convenience sake, it's usually easier to have all information items in one section with one motion to accept them as information and then deal with the action items separately. Voting on motions is pretty straightforward. Basically, the chair introduces the topic and invites the designated presenter to share more information. Once the presentation is done, the chair calls for a motion, which has been prepared in advance and shared as part of the agenda. Once the motion has been read, the chair then calls for discussion. This is when the other meeting participants can ask questions, offer their perspectives, or even challenge the motion. Once debate has been closed, the chair calls for a vote. If the majority vote in favor of the motion, it passes. If not, it fails. Side note, motions should always be worded in the positive. If there is no support for the motion, then it will fail at the vote. Remember, formal matters including budgets, amendments to bylaws, board structures, and more should be discussed and voted on separately from the other items to avoid any confusion. There are some situations where the discussion on a topic might lead to a change in the motion. The process for this is as follows. The chair presents the topic, the presenter speaks to the topic, the motion is read, and the topic is open for discussion. In this example, the motion on the table is to increase a budget item to $1,000. However, during the debate, someone disagreed with the amount and thinks the amount should be lower. That person may choose to make a motion to amend the original motion. If no one seconds the motion to amend, then the motion to amend is lost. If someone seconds the motion to amend, then the group will vote on the amendment to the original motion. If they vote in favor of the amendment, the original motion is amended and the participants will then vote on the amended motion. If the motion to amend the original motion does not pass, then the participants will vote on the original motion as it was presented. That's a lot of motions. Is anyone else feeling a little seasick? Once all the matters are discussed and voted on, then it's our favorite part of the meeting, and that is the motion to adjourn. This may seem like a trivial activity, but ensures that everyone knows that the formal part of the meeting is concluded, no official decisions can be made at this point, and the recording secretary can stop worrying about taking notes. So that's it. Robert's rules may seem a bit intimidating, but they can really provide structure and clarity to your meetings, and potentially keep you out of trouble. If you need more information, visit robertsrules.org for cheat sheets and reference guides, or you can do a quick Google search on Robert's Rules and you'll find plenty of information prepared by a variety of organizations who also use Robert's Rules for their own meetings. Thank you so much and enjoy your meeting.